Good morning and sort of welcome to the sixth and actually final Pimento Business Development Club of 2023, which is mad that we're in Christmas time already. But if you don't already know me, I'm Paddy Woods and I'm the director of Pimento Fuse, which is a new business consultancy built to energize agencies' growth. And Adam, Charlotte and Katie are all part of the fantastic team of Pimento Fuse. If you haven't been on previous calls, please use the chat box to ask questions and I'll look to bring you into the call. Today's session is actually a unique opportunity to get insights from experts around the path ahead and what we can try to do to maximize growth in 2024. To help me with this, I'd like to introduce our experts. We've got Katie Street, Charlotte Anderson and Adam Graham. Now, Guy Littlejohn at Facets couldn't actually join us today because he's got a personal situation to deal with. So we've had a quick reshuffle of questions Charlotte wasn't pleased about. But I'm going to, rather introduce them, I'm going to let them introduce themselves. So I'm going to start with Charlotte, actually.
Thanks. I get all the difficult questions, Paddy, and I get to go first. Brilliant. Happy Christmas, me. Hello, everyone. I'm Charlotte. I've been in new business for 20 odd years or so, 15 years working in agencies. In the last 5 years, I have been a freelance new business consultant working for agencies, including Havas, Imagination, VCTP, Rufus Leonard, and I'm currently at Atomic London.
Brilliant, thank you. Adam, you next. Sorry, Katie.
Hi guys, I am Adam Graham. I run, so similar to Charlotte, I've been in new business for about 15-20 years in agency world. Started in sort of Omnicom and then moved into Dentsu agencies as well. Set up Grey Matters about 5 years ago, which is a business development consultancy, and we build in-house growth teams and teach people how to produce the right sort of process and culture to create new business. And I also founded BD Matters, which is a community of business developers that you're all welcome to join.
And finally, Katie. Thank you, Adam.
Hey, well, apart from getting drunk at events, I do actually run a business as well, believe it or not. My name's Katie Street, similar to the guys who have just explained their kind of career path. Also worked in sales, new biz and marketing my entire career. Also about 15 years running new biz and sales and marketing strategies for agencies predominantly. And for the last 5 years at Street, we've kind of transitioned slightly, as we were born as an agency for agencies, but we kind of look after the first part of the journey, where I think Charlotte and Adam probably do a lot more at the latter end. We're all about demand generation, so we really take the lead on developing those leads. So it's a marketing-led approach to solving the sales problem. And I've kind of done that across my career, both worked for brands and agencies before I moved into the agency world. I also worked in publishing. So lots and lots of experience in the world of sales marketing. Also have a podcast that talks about marketing innovation and focuses on the lead generation side of marketing.
Brilliant. Thank you all for being here. It's great to have you. And actually, it's brilliant. So I'm going to get started. And please do ask questions in the chat as we go. And I'll look to bring you in as we sort of progress through the call. Charlotte, I'm going to start with you. And actually, it's one of the things that we're just talking about at the beginning of the call, which is how tough it's been for agencies this year. Now, there has been some opportunities, but I think it's generally been tough. And there's lots of agencies going through redundancies at the moment. But Charlotte, in the briefing call, you talked about the convergence into each especially in the creative side of things, of convergence of agencies coming into your space. Can you just sort of talk about what's 2023 been like for you?
Yeah, sure. And I mean, can I use this as free therapy? Because I feel like we all just need to let it go. It's been a tough old year. And I think at the start of the year, many agencies were banking on 2023 to be that comeback year. We had a lot of trade press going on about a flurry of pitches that were going to land, and there was a lot of noise and activity. And what's actually happened is that the game has been played out very, very differently. In Q1, there were a flurry of creative pitches. Yes, there was Sainsbury's and John Lewis, but what then got reported was that particularly in the creative space, the same agencies were getting the same pitches. And then the AAR released their report at the end of Q2 saying that 22% of advertising creative pitches were down. It was the same with digital. Also the same on media, but there was an increase in social media. So depending on where your discipline was, there was some new business opportunities out there for intermediary-led pitches, but I'm acutely aware that not everybody on this call will work with intermediaries. So I think it's important just to kind of look at the broader sources of new business as well. And I read in Creative Boom that for the natural history rebrand opportunity that went live earlier this year, 270 agencies went for it. So the competition has been next level. So not only has there been less pitches, but there's been more competition. I think the bigger agencies have gone for pitches and opportunities that have been less in terms of the budget. So again, we're being squeezed at both ends. And that said, though, I think the agencies that have taken advantage of this changing market have been really agile. They've been the independent, often kind of the fast to move, leaner agencies who've been taking advantage of the market conditions to pivot and change. So I've seen agencies moving into the social creator space. I mean, like Atomic, who launched Supernova at the middle of the year. They're looking at where there are growth opportunities within the industry and trying to kind of change the rules of the game. They're seeking out opportunities that aren't intermediary-led, that aren't going to be widely reported or tender-led, and trying to start conversations where they know that they can really kind of create opportunity for themselves. I'm also seeing agencies invest in client experience at the moment, because in the absence of actual new business, where can you unlock opportunities? Where can you protect your revenue? And then by investing in client experience, it's a great opportunity to have those conversations and at least ensure that you're not one of those agencies that are either going to close or redundancies. I mean, it's been bloody tough. And if we're on this call having conversations about what we can do for 2024, I think kudos to you guys, because you've survived 2023. Let's make sure that we're all fit for purpose for 2024, which I'm sure we're going to go on to discuss now.
Brilliant. Katie, Adam, do you have anything else to add into this?
Yeah, I think, I guess it does feel a bit doom and gloom. It was, scary. There were big agencies, and I'm sure a lot of you will know, I was sat next to Johnny Twos from Lab. They liquidated the day before the event, big agencies that, when I say big, like £7 million turnover, well-known agencies that have been doing brilliant work. Our clients like BigCommerce, some of the tech platforms, we work very heavily in the kind of tech e-commerce world, and big companies like BigCommerce are even having to make huge redundancies. So we know it's tough out there. I think a lot of that, just to kind of map into it, is there does feel like there's a lot of scarcity around budgets, and clients are having their budgets cut. I actually had the head of digital and marketing from Boohoo on a LinkedIn Live event that I ran yesterday, talking about planning for 2024. And a lot of the brands have got lesser budgets. So, trying to have in your arsenal things that are easier, cheaper to buy, because those big, exactly like Charlotte said, those bigger RFPs that take longer, that lots of people are pitching for, if you can try and get in the door on a smaller piece of work, the agility and the agencies that have relied on those big RFPs seem to be the ones that are struggling. Even clients of ours like Wunderman Thompson have just merged with VML Y&R, just become VML, which actually is good for us because we've got 2 events for them that we're doing to kind of launch some of their strategies in their marketing strategies in Q1. But it's the people that are just thinking about those bigger projects that seem to be, I think, struggling. So definitely thinking about how you can have more viable. My non-exec, who I think has been on these with me before, Patrick, he talks about these being kind of gateway products, a bit like gateway drugs. What kind of smaller things that are going to be easier to buy, easier to contract, can you have in your arsenal going into 2024 to make it easier for people to buy you? And productizing, as agencies, productizing your offering as well, I think will really, really help. So we can definitely talk about some of that today.
Brilliant. Adam as well, anything to bring in? Sorry.
I think a lot of the guys have covered it a lot, as we saw, as marketing budgets have been cut, and I think it's what's been hard for agencies is in the conversion side of things and getting things over the line. So justification of spend and budget is so paramount and so tough. And I think I don't think agencies do a great job of that, if I'm honest, in terms of actually, whether it's looking at sort of things like econometrics, which probably scare the hell out of people, or, just trying to understand and trying to justify why a marketing budget should be invested in your way and what return it's going to show is so important, because that's what those people are wrestling with internally in those sort of boardrooms, and that's what we need to appreciate on the other side, is that's what's going on, and they're being put under the pressure with their CFOs and CEOs. So we need to empower our clients to have those conversations in the boardroom. But I think there's, a lot of the guys on here, as I said, are independent, smaller agencies sometimes, and I think there's an opportunity here with the way brands are using sort of smaller agencies and more flexible talent and outsourcing in slightly different ways. I think that does potentially create an opportunity where we can be a bit more cost effective. We can bring in different skills. I mean, there's been so many sort of collective type agencies. I know we probably all use freelancers at some point to upskill or increase our capacity when we need to. So I think it's being really confident and efficient with those models can help demonstrate our value at a time when our marketers need us to. So a couple of thoughts to try and unlock what is a difficult time.
Thank you. And Katie, actually, you talked about sort of the buyable side of things and sort of productization and sort of making things smaller and easier to buy and avoiding the sort of big procurement processes and RFPs. But what do you see happening in 2024, sort of playing out over the course of the year in terms of new business and sort of, will there be uplift? Will there be sort of opportunities, bigger opportunities or better opportunities coming through and that side of things?
Yeah, I mean, I do think from speaking, I mean, obviously feel very blessed because we run a lot of events. We speak to a lot of end clients. We're hearing about their budget, constraints. In fact, we had one this morning that most of the team were or not most of the team, but some of the team were at the Ivy, hosting an event for Big Commerce and Brave Bison. And, we do get to hear, that we've got 30 prospects for them, but 30 digital brand leaders in the room. And we do get to hear what's going on. They're there sharing the conversations, sharing the challenges. I do think a lot of their budgets have been slashed, but come Q2, Q3, I think come late Q1, Q2, things will start to move a lot more quickly. I don't think it can't stay like this forever. People still need, they're still going to need to, market their businesses and attract customers or whatever it might be, depending on what they, your end prospects do. So I do think it will get moving. But things that you can do, or I think that agencies should be doing in order to break through and make sure that you attract and can convert those leads more easily in 2024 is building community and relationships. So thinking about go-to-market strategies that enable you to have conversations, a bit like I've just said at the event that we're hosting today. So what kind of program and tactics can you do to really, I guess, position yourselves and have conversations with your prospects, not just tell them what you do, because here, harsh truth, no one gives am I allowed to swear? No one gives a shit about what you do. What they want to know is how you can help them. So what's really important is, creating those spaces and communities, I think, that will enable you to have conversations with your prospects and then making it really easy for them to buy you. It's about adding value, speaking to the things that we know they're struggling with, which is getting things done quicker, faster, with lower budgets. How can you help them do that? And then how can you continue to communicate and get them over the line with, hopefully more easy to buy products and services that you might be able to package up.
Great. Charlotte, anything else to add into this sort of conversation as well?
No, I think I'd absolutely echo what Katie said. I don't want to start looking into my crystal ball and predicting what's going to happen next year, because it hasn't worked the last couple of years. I think what we do need to do is really double down on the processes and how we do new business, because when the market changes and opportunities come back in, we need to be fit for purpose. And that means ensuring that your team have a new business mindset. God, you don't want to be suddenly shifting that mentality when everything's coming in, because it's going to get busy. I think also, just ensuring that you can pitch well, how you're writing RFIs, how you're doing all of those responses and proposals, benchmarking your rates. You know, people are going to drop their rates potentially to try and win more business, to get that morale and so on, and create that momentum. So I think it's almost having a plan for 2024 for when things do come back in. And as Katie said, you know, having these hero moments, but really working out what you are experts at, diving into that, owning it, creating content around it, because we're in this era of integrated sea of sameness. And I think clients are getting really confused about, can you do this? Can you not do this? I'm a bit unsure, because we tend to say we can do an awful lot. So being really clear about what you are good at, I think, building content around it, owning it, having a point of difference, be a thought leader, not a service provider, show utility, create that value exchange, and let's get set for 2024.
Brilliant. Adam, actually, we're going to come to you because we know that traditional lead gen approaches aren't working as well. And so we talked about this, and sort of Charlotte mentioned the sort of 250 agencies in the National Museum pitch, which is ridiculous amount of agencies involved. So what do you think agencies need to take forward? What do agencies need to cut through? And actually that importance of positioning comes really clear. Can you just expand on that and talk about sort of doubling down on that positioning statement and being really sort of clear and thought and getting that cut through?
Yeah, of course. And, you know, it's something we see agencies struggle with all the time. And it's just so overlooked. And I think it's just so much more difficult than people think it is. You know, we started working with agency at the beginning of this year. It took them 8 months to come back to us on the original positioning work we'd done to realize how much work they needed to be done. And we're still debating it now. And at some point next year, it'll be implemented. And that's not uncommon. We've kicked off with quite a few positioning exercises, which can take years, because the journey that people have to go on to embed, to think about this stuff. And I think some people think of positioning as a very quick, short exercise of just updating their homepage. Some people spend years overthinking it and never getting anywhere because they're too scared to put pen to paper. And it's really complex, you know, the different elements to this. And I think, you know, positioning is really about strategy, and it's about ownership, and it's about focus, right? And I think that is often things that people are very scared to do, especially in this kind of market, because, you know, when people are sort of fearful and, you know, things are, you know, there's less opportunity out there, you tend to be less brave and less, you know, clear with your direction and focused, and therefore you start to pitch for everything like everybody else. You start to take on projects that you wouldn't typically take on, or you scrabble around for just work that doesn't really fulfill who you are or give you a direction. And eventually all that stuff might be great in the short term because you might win a project in December, and maybe that's what you need to do. But if you do it, you need to be aware of the impact it's having in the long term on your positioning. What is that saying about your business, and where is that taking you, you know, for the future? And so I think a lot of agencies are a sum of the parts of just having won various pieces of work over the course of 5 years. I don't think many agencies have a deliberate strategic approach to who they want to be, what they want to own, and where they want to go, and have they got a roadmap to say, okay, how do we get there in 5 years' time? And I think along that path, as I said, the road snakes, right, and people deviate away from it. And so I think that's, on a positioning level, I think it's really important to stay true to who you are. And I think the other part I sort of talk about is around standing out, is around bravery, having an opinion, and creativity. I think people are too scared to be creative in the sales world, in the world that we do. I see very standard, similar approaches. We do outreach, you know, hi, you know, this is what we offer, or do you want to come to an event? And it's all become very samey, very safe. I think there's ways to break out of that. I think there's so many opportunities to be creative, whether that's with your email writing and, you know, and what people are just sending out there, just being different and having fun with it, you know, sending song lyrics to prospects. Who would do that? Nobody, because everyone's too scared. They'd rather go with a very standard, safe subject line that, you know, that's not going to get opened by anybody. And I think there's so many opportunities for people to really have fun with sales and be creative and stand out, and use sort of new features and tech. So like Katie was talking about LinkedIn Live and you know, new things out there. I mean, some bits, you know, yes, overused and just for the sake of it can be gimmicky, but for the right context and in the right way, there's opportunities here to create cut through in different ways. But I think we need to embrace that. We need to sort of fail fast and enjoy it and get back to that side of things with new business. So that's the other thing. I think I try and encourage more sales creativity, which are two words that are probably not put together too often because salespeople aren't creative. We don't remember that.
Actually, how do you bring in that sort of that, because we aren't creative, how do you bring in that element of creativity? And actually it goes back to that culture, isn't it? And sort of getting wider teams involved.
Yeah, and connecting sales and marketing, because if marketing is where all the creativity is coming from, I think it's just about fusing them together. And, you know, we've been talking about connecting sales and marketing for so long, but I still don't feel it necessarily happens, or marketing people are thinking in a sales way. That's why terms like demand generation and business development are catching on, and why Katie and I sort of draw towards those, because they fuse creativity and sales together. It's marketing with a purpose, right? It has an endpoint, and that's so important that we're not just sticking out a blog on our website and wondering, I'd love someone to read that one day. That's the opposite of what we're talking about, right? We're looking at touch points where we can capture data and creative ways of infusing that all the way through what we're doing to generate demand. So yeah, hopefully that sort of helps encourage that a bit.
Patrick, can I add something to that?
Yes,
just
please do.
quickly, because it's ever so front of mind. So yesterday I ran this LinkedIn Live with it was, well, Anna Stone, who some of you may know. She's ex new biz director at Ogilvy. She's just joined Hotwire, and head of digital and marketing at Boohoo. So I had the kind of client view and the agency new biz view. And just to map into what Adam's saying, one of the things that both Anna has got in her plans for next year, I've 100% got in our plans at Street, and well, I've already been doing it for years, as any of you who follow me on LinkedIn will see. There's lots and lots of bite-sized content. I think traditionally we've thought we need to have this insights piece, this report, this longer form piece of content and event, which is great. But what agencies haven't been doing is actually what the brand leaders want, or the business leaders that you're trying to sell to want, is short, digestible content. Like, you know, the lady from Boohoo, Larissa, yesterday, she was like, I don't have time to read a 30-page report that, for instance, my client, you know, VML, Wonderman Thompson, you'll all know them as, that VML have created. What I want to know, and this is what we're going to be doing for them next year, is the short takeaways. Give me social posts and content that, you know, slide shares, which perform really well on LinkedIn, that, you know, that give me those takeaways, and use the technologies. There's so many fantastic tech platforms out there that can push that content in front of your clients, not just paid. There are things that you can do much more for you guys as well that are much cheaper to use. So we've been seeing great results with a platform called Meet Alfred, which enables us to engage with LinkedIn profiles, message people, you can even target people that have liked your competitors' posts. So, you know, making sure that you've got that short form, really valuable content that is helping them, but they don't have to go and attend a event for 3 hours or an hour, or they don't have to, you know, even joining something like this, like the outputs and the takeaways that we could get, that Patrick could summarize from this in a, you know, short form post, is going to be super valuable and really, really easy for lots of people to digest. So think about how you can I mean, I talk about this a lot, so really sorry if you've heard me talk about it before, but really I think it's more important than ever, like saying bite size, one thing to take away is bite size how to buy you, bite size how you push your content out, make it easy for people and quick, because no one's got time, everyone's under pressure more than ever. Let's make sure that they can, you know, understand how you can help them quickly and easily.
And actually, Katie, coming on to the tech stack, we know that clients have a really improved tech stack, agencies don't, and they're often falling behind. You talk about it on your podcast, Marketing the Madness, which is this composable content, and sort of ensuring that actually, how do you help agencies get the right tech stack, get the right sort of content set up, and also actually how much does AI play into this? Because agencies, I think, got really bad with content at the moment. They use AI and they just send it out, and that's an AI thing, and you can see it in the content it's producing and everything like that. So it's not personalized to that business, it's personalized to what the AI has come out with.
Oh, I mean, if you use AI correctly, and we do use it at Street a lot, it helps us scale what we can do for us and our clients massively. Now, there's so many use cases for this in the new business, on the new business side of things. And I'm sure Charlotte and Adam can probably play into more in how you can use it for RFPs and responding to pitches, because there are some great things. And Anna was talking yesterday about how they're using, starting to layer in some pretty clever tech and some that they've actually created at Hotwire themselves that will help them respond to RFPs more quickly. And of course, you can, there's some awesome things that you can do. For me, the tech stack that we have obviously is fairly sophisticated because we do this at scale for lots of agencies and tech businesses. But you've got to have good insights. So we use research platforms that give us data intent, but also helps us understand what's going on in the industry. So in terms, from a research point of view, we use platforms like Canvas 8. I don't know if any of you guys have used that. Raise your hands if you have heard of it or used it. But fantastic platform when you need to get, when you need to understand markets and what's going on and interview people at scale and create white papers and content. We also use some really clever data and insights platforms like Alf Insights, which give us buying intent news. I've been using that this morning actually for a pitch that I'm working on for a client, as well as the actual data for those people that we can then load into our email platforms and meet Alfred and target those people rather than having to do paid. The same goes for Apollo, which gives us our global data because we run campaigns for our clients, not just in the UK. We need access to, data in America and across EMEA and DAC and the DAC regions. So Apollo gives us that exactly the same buying intent data, but also the actual contact data for those people, both for LinkedIn and email, phone numbers, etc. We then need to automate that outreach. So we use some really clever platforms that enable us to do that at scale, both on LinkedIn and via email. HubSpot, Coolia, and Meet Alfred being the three that we've landed on at Street that gives us everything that we need. You probably don't need all of those. You may just need one or a couple of, because actually platforms like Apollo will also have the email. If you're doing email at a smaller scale than we are, we'll actually have the email built in and the data, so you can do a lot of it in one place. And then, gosh, there's so many other things that we use, like in terms of the tech stack that we have here. We have things that give us personality and disc profiling, so that we know, how they want to be spoken to, how to run the outreach when we're kind of leading that ABM side of things. I'm looking at the team set up for me. There's probably loads of other tech labs that I can't remember, but there's so many. And obviously, of course, then, checking and reporting on how the campaigns have been performing, making sure that we can automate responses and react in real time when we can see someone's, for instance, some of the technologies that we use we can see when people are visiting your website. So therefore we'll follow up when we know they're engaged. So it automates so much of it for us. It's only as good as the content you put in. So the value exchange and the way that we write things and the way that we do things is very, very unique at Street. It's very personal, it's very human, but the technology enables us to do this at scale, I think we were speaking to one of our tech partners, we've got over 100,000 data sets for us and our clients. So it's a huge amount of data that we're processing. But we couldn't do that without the technologies, and we wouldn't get the success that we get without the insights and the automations that the technologies give us.
And so actually one of the sort of questions is composable content, which is actually helping feed in that to that chain. How does composable content work? And so what's the opportunity, I suppose, for brands? Because that goes back to what you're talking about, bite-sized content.
Yeah, I guess so. But basically, most of my clients are nowadays a part of the Mac Alliance and are composable technology companies. So it enables you to do things quicker, faster, better, I guess, and choose the right tech stack for you. So it's kind of fusing together best in breed. Gone are the days of the kind of old school, big monolithic platforms don't want to, I mean, these are also clients of ours sometimes, so like Adobe and Cycle, who are known to be like, you go to one place and you buy everything from one person. And I guess what I've just talked about in Street Stack is a composable stack to a certain extent. It ties in with HubSpot on our website and, you know, all of the different things that we do. So essentially it's a huge trend. You'll see it, you know, you'll start to hear about headless composable Mac a lot more if you haven't heard of it already. It's enabling brands to, you know, I had a call with Diageo, the head of digital at Diageo yesterday. He's coming on the podcast. That's where they're going. You know, I recently had Vodafone talking about their journey on the podcast. So this all kind of plays into what's happening right now, right? Because they need to do more, quicker, faster, for less money, and composable technology enables them to do it. It's cheaper. You can get rid of things, add things in a much more flexible way, and it empowers the brand. You know, they're not stuck into a massive license. So again, you know, we can learn from that in terms of our own marketing. That's the future. That's what people want. How can we fit into that and support them on that journey, and also, you know, become composable ourselves, I guess, to a certain extent.
Brilliant. Adam, Charlotte, do you want to add anything into this as well? Thank you, Katie.
Yeah, I think it's about, you know, like Katie said, we've got a very similar setup, and I think, but it can be nerve-wracking and a bit of a sort of minefield for, you know, well, for our clients and for us as well, right, to work out what we need to do. I think the heart of it is a CRM system, right? That's the most important thing, I think, for people to not get too distracted with sometimes all the other tools. But I think it's about trying to sort of look at your sales funnel, and then there are different tools that talk to different parts of that sales funnel. So some of the things that, you know, that Kate is talking about, whether it be email outreach or LinkedIn outreach and things like that, obviously that's top of funnel. You're trying to generate leads. But what's important that you're able to sort of draw that data through and track that activity in a CRM system, so you understand that person's sort of level of engagement, you know, with you, and you can continue to nurture. And so then it's about trying to understand what to do with those people once they're in the funnel, and how are you nurturing that content? How are you sort of bringing those people along a journey? So there's lots of tech out there. There's too much, and I think it's about maybe trying to embrace a sort of a mindset of trial and learn, and just sort of like take things on board all the time. You know, that's how I've done it. My entire career, you know, when I started, it was like, well, that looks like an interesting tool. Let's try and see what that does, play with it for yourselves. We then do it for our clients, then it works for them, and so on and so forth. And that's generally how things work. But I think there needs to be that, going back to the mindset piece, there has to be a mindset to adopt, you know, technology and this composable mindset and a new business culture of what that could mean. And there is some stuff that is just for the sake of it, but there's other stuff that's going to give you a real competitive advantage. And at times like this, that's exactly what you need, and it could be the difference. And I think but the key to this is just starting and going on a journey, because the sooner you do that, the closer you'll be to sort of adopting it. Whereas if you're sort of constantly pushing it back or burying your head in the sand, I think eventually it's going to catch up with you, and you're going to find out that everybody is now using this tool or doing something, and you're miles behind. So, you know, the key with new business is always competitive advantage and trying to keep one head ahead of the game. And
actually, on that competitive advantage, just a random question, which is fees, and actually how destroying they are really for agencies. And actually, is there a way that new business, I suppose this is coming to me, new business can help look at that differentiation for agencies and say, actually, we need to look at how we cost things differently and be different and stand out? Because I think otherwise we're just sending ourselves to fail, in terms of we've just been cutting our costs. Well, actually, let's think about sort of how we commercialize ourselves better.
I did a podcast on this, sorry, Adam, with Tangent, and he was saying that, you know, if agencies basically don't productize their offering, they're going to die, because let's be honest, we are, and I see it happen. I mean, a lot of my, you know, the tech companies we work with play with the agencies, because the agencies are implementing the tech, but the tech companies are getting better and better at selling themselves they are products, right? So people buy it, they make it really easy for people to buy them. What they don't realize sometimes is that you then need to implement it, and there's a fair bit of work to do on that. But we are now pitching up against these tech companies, and we know that AI is already here and it's only going to improve. So I honestly think, again, 2024, 2025, 2026, whatever, ongoing, if you don't start to productize your offering and make it easy for people to buy you're going to get overtake. You're not just going to need to use the AI and tech companies. They're going to overtake. So I really think now is this time to start thinking about how you can productize your offering. Sorry, Adam, continue.
No, I think yeah, I mean it's a tricky one, obviously. Like with AI, I mean, there's this whole debate whether it's going to like be the savior of our industry or whether it's absolutely going to car crash it, because it's just driving down price and commoditizing everything we do. And it depends where you sit in the marketing game. There are agencies here that are driven to be efficient and drive ROI, and there's some that are more sort of creative, brand led, and trying to think long term and trying to do more value based pricing, and it's going completely the opposite direction. So there are two different sides to this coin where you look at, but so I think you've got to demonstrate your value for sure. I think you've got to look at efficiencies internally, and if AI can help you cut costs and be more efficient, or using flexible sort of workforces can make you be more efficient, then you should do that. Productizing and gateway products, we do that, for ourselves and for others. I think making yourself easy to buy in some elements is so important, because it just gives some people something a bit more tangible. But yeah, I just think it's tough out there for agencies, and I think it comes down to sort of demonstrating your value, time and time again to those marketers, and I think the best time to also do that is in a new business or in a pitch process, because that's the first time they interact with you and the first time they get to sort of understand what you're all about. And so I think if you backtrack too much or you'll cave in too much at that point, I think then you're starting off on the wrong footing. So I think although you're desperate to win potentially the new business win, I think that's the time to set boundaries and to maintain your margin and to be really strong in a negotiation, because that will be the respect and the level of which they buy you at and they understand you at. And I think sometimes if you're too quick to you might win the job, and you might, they might drop your prices, but then you might pay for that later because you haven't got the margins, or they feel like they can walk all over you, or you haven't maintained that level of respect from that instance. So it's the new business time is a really important time to sort of, it's not just about price, it's also about relationship and where you see ourselves now and for the future.
Perfect.
Can I add something just really, really quick? Because I haven't said anything for ages, and I was anyway. Hi, still here. I have a love-hate relationship with tech and AI. There is definitely a place for it, but can we just remember, it can be costly, it can be daunting, and if you've got a small team or you're a founder-led business responsible for doing new business, where do you find the time to implement all of this? So I think it's finding a right balance. People by people, we're still in a relationship industry, so we can talk about content, and yes, absolutely, we need to do it. But getting and winning new business can be just as achieved by getting out there at conferences, events. It's having connections and communities, and we mustn't forget that. It mustn't be an afterthought. It's so important to just get yourself out there and not just try and win business sat behind a laptop. Get out there, meet people, have conversations, listen to what they're saying, and build that trust. And that's where you can also build value, by having those face-to-face conversations. So I think it's just about, I'm not saying, I'm not being a Luddite here when it comes to tech and AI and everything else. It's just finding that happy medium, but also remembering, guys, we're fantastic sales tools and marketing people ourselves. Let's go out there and meet people and spread the word.
That is a really valid point, which is people by people, and we are a people industry, but and that sort of cost side of all the tech is really important, and sort of really understanding that side of things. But sort of with sales journeys taking longer, how do you actually go about bringing that sort of nurturing and sort of more personalized approach to make sure that actually you're engaging clients all the way through this process, which could take 18 months. How do you go about doing it at the moment, and sort of on that personal front?
I think from my perspective, you do need to have a drumbeat, a cadence of communications to them. How you tend to do that is obviously going to be more fitting to the way you choose to operate. Show you care. It's like dating. It's like a relationship. You can't just go all in and then that's it, leave it, and then just see what happens. I mean, you need to keep investing in that relationship and show that you are interested, but provide utility as well. So as long as your prospect has sort of given you permission to keep in touch and you're providing something that's informative, useful, entertaining, that's going to help them do their job better, then make sure you're front of mind. Perhaps maybe do some targeted PR in the verticals that they're in, just so that you're present where they are. Again, turn up at events where they may be, so you can also have a presence there. But I think it's about ensuring that you don't forget that you are building a relationship. It may take time, but just plan it accordingly, and always provide utility.
Yeah, I think there's a real element of just doing it. I think the amount of people that don't nurture at all and let things drop. And even we'll see it with some people, you know, they'll do an event and they'll be looking at the event and be like, well, how many leads did we get off the back of that event? And my response to that be, over what time period would you measure that? And they like look at me like I'm mad. And like, but genuine question, what time period do you measure the ROI of an event? Like, for anybody here? And I think everyone would like sort of look at that and go, oh, okay, yeah, well, like, you gotta, but it could be 2 years, right? That comes to fruition. And if it doesn't, if it does come to fruition in 2 years, and if that win of that work is more than the investment spent in that marketing 2 years ago, was the investment worth it, even though it took 2 years? Well, yeah, of course it was. But this is the problem, is that it's that mindset of this short-termism of like, what's going to drive results right now? What's working in what time period, right? People just want to know what's working right now, right? And so they give up on it. But they don't know whether they're giving up too early. And I think this is the really important thing in new business, is like, when is it right to give up on something? When does something need tweaking? Or when does something need fusing with a different marketing or sales tactic? Because it could be that sales tactic on its own is crap. So you just do lead gen on its own, rubbish. Lead gen with a blog, oh, hold on, lead gen might be working a little bit more. You know, so it's about trying to piece this all together. And I think planning journeys in advance are really important. So when you're thinking about any activity, don't just think about what you're going to do in the first month. Think about what you're going to do over the course of 6 months or 12 months. You know, really think about that entire journey, what the after sales going to be like, and what that nurturing piece looks like. And then the other point is that in the CRM system, you know, it's just setting activities, just constantly doing it. You know, you get in touch with somebody, you check in with them, depending on where it goes, you set another activity. 3 months time, you do it on repeat, You know, this is why people sort of talks about the peaks and troughs in their pipeline, and why they have good and bad months and times of the year. It's because their output and their business development activity is up and down throughout the year. They'll sort of go through peaks of like reaching out to people or going to a few events, and then they'll go through troughs of just doing nothing. And that's why that's reflected in their pipeline. Whereas if you continue to do bits every single day and keep on top of it like a habit, then you maintain a much smoother pipeline and you're able to nurture on a much consistent level. So it's a lot of this is around mindset, I think, and actually it's an execution problem. People know what to do. Sometimes they don't know what to say always, but sometimes you don't have to say that much other than, hi, how are you? Just checking in. You know, you just have to be human, but you just have to do it on repeat. And if you did that on repeat, you'd start to build relationships with people. So, you know, it's about that. Sometimes that's about being selfless and just being out there and just checking in with people all the time, rather than going, what's in it for me? What's my ROI? What did I get off that event? You know, and just think longer term in that sort of relationship building way. But you've got to dedicate time to it for sure.
Brilliant. Thank you. I'm going to start opening up to the floor. Stephen, I'm going to bring you in. Yes. with your question around channels getting more fragmented.
No, I just listen. I empathise with agencies at the moment, because I think, like marketeers themselves, there are so many different ways and different techniques and different channels that you need to employ to be able to get cut through. And as Katie was suggesting, that unless you embrace technology, your competitors will, and therefore they'll have a commercial advantage over you, because they'll be able to actually get that cut through that you need to get in front of the right clients. Like all these things, it's a blend. And then, as Charlotte was saying, ultimately people buy people. But in order to have those conversations, you need to get that cut through. So job number one is basically being really clear about who you're trying to target, what your proposition is, productisation. Productisation, as you said earlier on, is absolutely essential in a really crowded marketplace. And we've got to remember there are 25,000 independent agencies out there. So to get any time with a client who is in a position at the moment where they are probably busier than they've ever been, because they've probably had a reduction in headcount, or they're under pressure. Equally, they are needing to be seen to be very busy at the moment, because the pressures that have been put upon them by their FDs and managing directors and so on. They will have less time, but they are looking for solutions, and they're also looking to drive down price. We saw significant price rises in the marketing services after COVID. Agencies were in a really good position to be able to go out there actually and demand what they wanted. The issue at the time was they hadn't got the talent to be able to fulfill the requirements of the clients at the time, so that there was high demand and low availability. We're now at a different stage of that curve, and now we have agencies that have resources and talent in place, albeit they're looking to reduce their costs and overheads at the moment, and clients that actually aren't looking for agencies, and if they are, it's to drive down price. So independent agencies and consultants are well positioned. Your overheads, your structure, your flexibility, your entrepreneurial approach to new business, all those things need to be brought to bear. Those are the arguments that you should be putting forward. And I also think that, in our comms, we are in real danger of spending all our time nurturing and not actually asking for some business. We think about LinkedIn, and we think about the environments that we actually communicate. We're all very good at actually having opinions and ideas and insights and didn't you know, and all that good stuff. Actually, sometimes a more direct approach is not a bad idea. Saying we have expertise in these areas, we've got great case histories in this space, we've got great track records here, we've got talent available to help you and your business drive down your costs at this time. You need to somehow put yourself in the mindset of your potential clients. Think about the pressures they're facing as a business and how you can actually produce solutions for them. If you go in with that mindset, I think you've got a better chance of success. I also think, and this is kind of a question about collaboration, because the other part of the independent cocktail, if you like, is that you all work with good people, you've got good relationships, you're able to extend your products and services. If you've got existing client relationships, mind those, seek to find and understand exactly what your clients are saying at this time. Where have they got problems in their marketing portfolio and their agency portfolio? Are you able to add services or work with other agencies that can add resource to secure additional revenue for you? Always the best place to start is with existing clients. So a lot of different ideas there, but I totally agree. It's going to be, to coin a phrase, a bit of a shit show. It's tough. And actually, first of all, pin down your existing client base, make sure they're happy, over service if you need to in order to be able to retain that client. Seek to understand their business challenges, where you can add value. When communicating, don't be afraid to be a little bit more direct, to be honest. And use your strengths and use those in your weaponry to actually, get new business. And Adam, absolutely central to that is a really good CRM. Whether you're using HubSpot, Pipedrive, whatever you're using, do use it and act like salespeople. At the end of the day, we sell on behalf of our clients, but we're always very good at actually selling ourselves. And this comes back to a culture of sales and marketing within your organization. Each of you, I know, helps agencies in that respect, in that space, and there's others too. But I think we all have to recognize every day when we get up, we have a job to do, and the job we all have to do in some way, shape, or form is selling ourselves or selling our agencies. And if we hide behind the fact that we're in marketing or we're in strategy, those are component parts of the sales process. But ideally, all of you are pulling together to be able to achieve the objectives for your agency, and all of you have to recognize that you are in sales, like it or not. Lots of stuff there. Sorry. Download. It's my turn, Charlie.
That wasn't a question.
What was the question?
You had a question in the chat, but that's gone.
Oh, it's gone, is it? Okay, sorry.
I like the directness though of it. Like, you know, there is at some point you just need to ask for the business, and I think you sometimes need to just carve that open a little bit, don't you, and be a bit more direct. And I think it's so true. People often sort of beat around the bush, and or I think also sometimes in sort of not qualifying. So even if there's not an opportunity, because they don't ask soon enough, they can end up sort of really trying to woo someone that is going nowhere. And so they can sort of be sharing reports and I can often find that agencies and prospects have lots of meetings with one another. They're doing this dance, but then they'll find out a month later that they've got no budget and there's never any intention to work together. And you think, what a waste of time that was. Had you have asked that question right at the beginning or just been a bit more direct, then you may not have wasted that time, and that's time that you could reinvest into your agency. So
we are as guilty as that as anyone else. And I think just being prepared to ask up front, saying, do you have budget? More often than not, clients say, I don't know how much this will cost. How much shall I actually be setting aside for this? That inevitably teases out the fact that you need to put some thought into it. But actually, asking, is there money at the end of the rainbow here?
I think it's a British thing as well, because you go to America and they're very direct and they still know what their value is, and they'll say that to the client or to the investor, whatever it is, I'm worth this much money. Over here, it takes us about 10 weeks to say that. And we're so nervous about sort of committing and sort of saying, putting something out there because we don't want to be shot down or something. There's a mindset that actually it's breaking that and knowing your value and knowing your worth and actually going for it.
We talk about money on the first call. That's our I think there's a couple of sales consultants out there and people that say if you don't talk about money on the first call, then it's not a call. It's not an opportunity. Unless you're talking about money right on the off, like nobody's really taking it seriously. And I think I think it's really important that you sort of kind of know where you know where someone stands and what they're thinking, or at least it might open a conversation up towards where the money's going to come from. Who is the budget holder? How many hoops is that person going to have to jump through to alleviate that money? And then that also paints a picture of like, oh, okay, right. So this is something you're thinking about in the next 18 months, not now. And you start to get a realistic picture of what's going on internally. I think we just go along for the ride sometimes and just hear what we want to hear. And I think that's dangerous in sales.
Yeah, and if you don't get an answer to your question whether you should be qualifying in or not, I won't. If they won't give me a budget, I can't quote, because how long's a piece of string? And I've always kind of stood by that. We've got a strong enough, luckily, pipeline at Street that if they won't give me a budget or any indication of budget and it's just pie in the sky, I just won't go for it, because I can't. How can I know that I can obviously do my own bit of due diligence in the background, but how do I know, where they're at and if they can afford us? I can't quote for anything because I might be, shooting in totally the wrong direction.
One of the things that I found quite interesting is moving away the language around cost and budget to investment, to say, so how much are you going to invest in this, as opposed to how much budget do you have? Because if you're talking about investment, you're getting a real statement of intent and ambition. Also, you start talking about value. So it's a little thing, but it does make a difference.
Brilliant. I'm conscious of time, so I'm just going to go around the sort of panel. Just one last final bit of advice for 2024. I'm going to start with, Charlotte.
No, come back to me. Let me just gather my thoughts. I was first up. Hang on.
Right.
There's so much we've talked about.
Adam.
I'll save Charlotte. I'll just buy myself some time thinking about what I'm going to say. I think creativity. I think the creativity in sales is probably my strongest point. I think be bolder, be braver. I know it's a tough time, but hopefully, inflation is dropping. There should be some signs of hope next year. There's a couple of big events like the Olympics. Events are back. You'll see the Euros are on next year. There's growth in a few different areas as well, and I do think there will be sort of budgets and people sort of spending more in the new years. But you've got to make sure you're nurturing. You've got to make sure you're there at the table. So be a bit bolder, be more creative in your sales approach, and don't be afraid to stand out.
Thank you, Katie.
Oh gosh, I would say for me, it's about making sure you build an engaged audience. Sales is going to become harder, but obviously my focus is always on the top of the funnel and how you guys all ensure you're never worried about where your next opportunity is. So focus your marketing around building an engaged audience of people who love and trust how you can help them. Stop talking about what you do and start talking about how you can help your prospects, and try some new stuff, use some new technologies, try some new tactics, utilize LinkedIn lives. Just get started. My one thing would be, if you haven't got a marketing program that's going to help you build a community, think about how you can do that and how you are, what exactly you're going to do. Try a few different things, make sure you've got a few different tactics, and just get going.
Brilliant. And Charlotte?
There's been so much really good stuff discussed today. So I think the thing that I would say is try not to fall foul of apathy. It's so easy when you're confronted with lots of people saying lots of stuff and noise on social media. Have a clear plan, travel forward in that direction, try and get the rest of the business to all row in the same direction with you. So you're creating that spirit, because you've got to bring that energy and that enthusiasm. Be positive. We're masters of spinning plates. So little and often, keep doing lots of activity, and all that momentum will pay off in the long term.
Brilliant. Thank you. And I won't stop coming, because I think actually there's so much good content from today. So thank you very much. I want to thank Katie, Adam, and Charlotte for a great and enlightening session. I think we can go on and talk for hours more about this, and bring in actually sort of videos becoming more important as we move forward. But we are going to be following up on this with a YouTube video, which we posted later, probably tomorrow. And there will be some bite-sized content and some other snippets and some long-form content. So you'll be able to sort of read in your own or watch in your own way and enjoy it. Next up, the next BD Club is on the 31st of January, and we're going to be having a follow-up session on negotiation with Bob Spence. And the title is he's going to be introducing a new bargaining system under the heading How to Negotiate Like the CIA. So it could be quite an interesting one. No guns included on that. That's all we have time for. So thank you very much for joining us today. Happy Christmas. And actually 2024 is going to be a good year. It's going to be an interesting one, but it's going to be a good year. I can see it. I'm going to put it out there. Anyway, thank you very much all.
Thanks, Paddy. Thanks.
Cheers, guys.
Take care.
Bye-bye.